Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. I think we're going to get a kickoff now. Other folks, as they join, that's great. They can catch up with us. I'm Glenn Gerard. I'm the head of enterprise sales here at the Ottawa branch of CDW. And today I'm very happy to have Jeff Hicks presenting to us from NetApp. He's one of their senior cloud solution architects. Couple of housekeeping items. Number one is, as you have questions, and I'm sure you'll have a lot, please put them in the Q&A chat box, and we'll address them as we go. And another one, pretty exciting one, is on Friday you'll receive an email link asking you to complete a survey about this session. We're going to randomly draw 5 folks that complete the survey, and you'll be receiving one of 5 Disney Plus subscriptions for a year. So if, like me, you're a big Marvel Universe fan, or you've got kids, or whatever the case might be, that's a great, having a year access to that is a great thing. So please do complete the survey for your chance to win that. Jeff, I think you're driving the slides. I'll ask you to jump to the next one. So a lot of you are obviously in the past or current CDW customers, and you're aware that we're the leading IT solutions and services partner. That's even more true now that CDW has purchased Scalar Decisions about a year ago. Jeff, could I ask you to go to the next one? Thanks. So as I mentioned, this is a timeline of CDW's evolution. Couple of key points. Near the end of that timeline, the timeline we're on so far, in 2019, Scalar was acquired. Scalar Decisions was acquired by CDW, and that greatly expanded our services capabilities, our abilities to help with cloud migration and application modernization. And additionally, in 2019, another acquisition by CDW was Aptris, which is a ServiceNow Elite partner. So again, all feeding back into the focus on services. Okay, go to the next one, Jeff. Thanks very much. Just a quick snapshot, a bit of a NASCAR slide here, but 178 rank in the Fortune 500, $18 billion in global sales, and 9,900 co-workers with 250,000 international customers. I think there's one more after this. There may or may not be. Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. This again, our Canadian headquarters, as probably most of you know, is in the West Mall in Toronto, in Etobicoke. However, each of these, we have branch offices in each of these cities. What we like to say is anywhere there's an NHL team, there is a CDW office. So with that, I want to get out of the way and we can get some time with Jeff. And again, I want to thank Jeff Hicks for taking the time today to come in and update us on NetApp. And with that, I'll hand over to you, Jeff. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Glenn. And I appreciate you guys for giving us the opportunity to partner with you and speak to our audience. And certainly want to thank our audience as well for joining us today and giving us an opportunity to talk to you about 3 powerful data management strategies that NetApp and CDW can help you deliver along with our products or solutions and CDW's comprehensive services capabilities. So we believe that we're well positioned along with CDW to help you through your digital transformation and your workplace modernization requirements. And we'll be talking through first the increasing pace of change. I think certainly as it relates to our current environment, we've obviously seen a very rapid pace of change over the last several months, but also the pace of change that we've seen increasing over the last several years as a result of digital transformation and trying to access the digital gold rush. So we'll address that and how you can accomplish digital transformation and workplace modernization through talking through the 3 strategies that we can deliver together with CDW, really the promise of hybrid cloud, optimizing your on-prem infrastructure to reduce physical infrastructure costs, and then most importantly, protecting and securing that data and being able to invest in partners that can help you do that across your hybrid multi-cloud. I think security conscious mindset is probably the most critical thing to ensure that in this new world, in this new era, where we have distributed data, distributed users, that we ensure that our data is protected and secure. We'll wrap up with some calls to action and certainly hope to have some time for Q&A. But as we go through, please feel free to throw things into chat. We have moderators that will be looking at your questions, and we would love to actually, pause and take some of those questions and discuss them as we go through our session today. So again, there's really doesn't need much discussion that we all know we're in a rapid, pace of change as of the last few months. And certainly we've all had different challenges, whether personal or business or an IT, in addressing that change. But I think it really comes at the tail end of a massive change around digital transformation that we've been seeing over the last few years. It's that concept of, data has value. I need to figure out how to use it for my organization. And I also have to really speed up my access to data, speed up the production of data, and more importantly, speed up the innovation that my company can wrap around the data that is available to me. So really, speed is the new scale in this new era. It's no longer, I'm going to build one massive data center, and that data center is going to be the answer to all my infrastructure, all my user problems. Speed is more paramount now, and we see hybrid multi-cloud environments really becoming the de facto architecture as a result, because people need to be able to access all the tools in whatever environment they need to be able to be productive and innovative. And then they need to make sure that their data is there and available when they need those environments. So these things drive us towards digital transformation, and that, of course, requires an IT transformation. Just for an example, if we were to adopt a DevOps culture, we have to flatten the organization, and we have to introduce new ways to collaborate. We also have to introduce new ways for the business to communicate with IT. So there's really a fundamental transformation. And of course, we believe that it all centers around data. I think regardless of where your application lives and where your users live, the thing that has gravity is your data. And the worst part about that is that data is more and more proliferated. It might be in multiple cloud regions, might also sit out at the edge at Internet of Things devices or small remote offices. And so we have to foster our data wherever it lives, but we also have to simplify that. We have to be able to manage it with the same tools, the same processes, the same procedures, and really also make sure that data is available when we need it, where we need it. And that's really driven this last comment, the move from data centers to data fabrics. A little bit more concern about building that massive monolithic infrastructure to building a cohesive fabric, a connective tissue for our data between all the environments that we operate in. So again, I think it's no surprise that we're at this work from home tipping point. I've been involved in several conversations over the last couple months, in a variety of scenarios. Some customers that were, ready to go. They just needed a little bit of help to get a few more scaling elements off the ground. And then others that really needed to start from ground zero. But I think there was a really telling survey that was done last year that showed that, huge percentage of our population wanted the option to work from home. But there was obviously some resistance to that. Some of it was based on security. Some of it was based on existing tools, and just, in a lot of cases, just restraints around budgeting. So as often the case, right, necessity is the mother of innovation, and has driven a change, not just in how we work, but also the mindsets of our executives. Gartner did a recent survey in April and showed that 70% of CFOs intend to shift some employees to work remotely for the long term. So I think that is really an important element to understand, that a lot of the things and the trends that we're seeing today, those are not going away anytime soon. So I think we need to really embrace those different methods to deliver remote work and figure out new and creative ways to, again, leverage our hybrid multi-cloud architecture. So I talked a little bit about the, what we would call maybe the winners and the losers of this current environment. I think some were really well positioned in how they had embraced digital economies, how they had embraced digital transformation, and some degree of usage of the public cloud. And that's really the new IT organization. They're digital, they're resilient, they're agile. They're in a position where in the face of something like COVID, they can rapidly transform their workforce. In other cases, we still have a lot of organizations that are residing on, physical, predictable, slow type of infrastructures that in a lot of cases have met the need up till now. They maybe didn't accelerate digital transformation initiatives, but maybe there weren't any in the organization that made sense. So I think this new area of business continuity has proven that digital transformation is really more than just reaching the digital gold rush and accessing the value of your data. It's also about fundamentally being able to change your business to address your users and your customers in new and unique ways as we face a rapidly changing world. So we'll go ahead and dive into the first concept, and it's ultimately, the promise of hybrid cloud, hybrid multi-cloud, as we like to call it. Often we'll define it here a little bit. And, often I define the promise over the last several years of the public cloud is ultimately lowering the cost of ideas. And I think that is what it delivers on, and that is the primary purpose and the primary use case. Gone are the days where we spend, 6 months after we've sat together in a boardroom and decided we have a great idea to build out an infrastructure, get dozens of bombs from CDW, potentially spend millions of dollars, and then maybe 6-12 months down the road, we've got a platform to deliver our new idea on. And then the unfortunate case is in a lot of scenarios, those ideas don't turn out to be profitable or beneficial for the company, but in many cases, we end up just sticking with it because we've already invested. So cloud lowers the cost of ideas, and that is certainly where it sees its strength. I can try new things rapidly, and I can easily take new ideas to market and see if they're profitable. But the idea of hybrid multi-cloud is that, private infrastructures certainly aren't going away. And there's a place for that as well. And I think that's an important dynamic in terms of hybrid multi-cloud, is that, anybody that says public cloud isn't relevant, they're wrong, in my opinion. And anybody that says private infrastructure is going away, I believe in the same vein that they're also wrong. I think the future is really hybrid multi-cloud. And probably the most important element of that is that you have a cohesive way to manage your data across the environments, regardless of where they live, connecting your users to the data wherever they need it to be. But there are obviously concerns that we have to address, right? Security concerns are always top of mind for me. I didn't mention this when I did my introduction, but I didn't spend 10 years at Symantec prior to 5 years at NetApp, so I have a very security conscious mind. But in addition to that, we have access method issues, whether it be at the networking level or what type of protocol does our workload need. So we deal with that in some of the dynamics and in how that is managed in the cloud, as well as capacity and performance limits around latency and throughput. And more importantly, performance troubleshooting, really knowing what's going on with the environment and your workloads. And then, of course, the durability and the availability of your data. Is it going to be available? Is it going to be protected when you need it? I think we all know there's fewer nines that are available in the public cloud, so we might need to design some things in a very specific way to get the type of resilience that our application needs. And I think we can all agree that the cloud is pretty flexible, and I could probably build pretty much something to do just about anything. But that cost becomes certainly a dynamic factor. And as I build a more performant, more durable environment, that cost tends to skyrocket. So we need some flexibility to be able to introduce efficiencies and flexibility in that environment. So NetApp, one of NetApp's answers to that question, I do say one of NetApp's because we have a very broad portfolio for our public cloud partners. And we have, of course, chosen a few things to focus on today. And one of our answers to help you optimize your cloud data services is something we call Cloud Volumes ONTAP. And here's a quick look at what an environment in the cloud looks like before Cloud Volumes ONTAP. In any of the environments, you're typically working with your individual protocols to service your applications, and each of those protocols has a different management procedure, a different process. And they have separate buckets of data that are not efficient against each other. If we take a look at the architecture after Cloud Volumes ONTAP has been deployed, we're actually able to deliver all of those protocols from a single high-performant entity and deliver that same operating infrastructure across all 3 public clouds. So you're able to consolidate your workloads into a single infrastructure, single data services management environment inside your public cloud of choice, and simplify that, and then also introduce the flexibility to move your data throughout different clouds and your own private infrastructure, all residing on ONTAP. So Cloud Volumes ONTAP is really the underpinning for our ONTAP portfolio and how we extend that environment into the cloud. So you can replicate between on-prem and to the cloud, and you can also replicate between clouds, providing a great amount of flexibility and really providing you freedom of choice and the ability to move your data into the cloud that's most economical, that's most functional for you at the time that you have new projects. And in addition to that, we have great efficiencies built in. So we have the ability to apply deduplication and compression against your data sets in your public cloud. That's actually going to save you money on your public cloud storage costs. Some great efficiencies, some great simplicity, again, because if we have data in all these different environments, we're able to manage them with a single tool and manage them with a single set of processes and procedures across all the public clouds and also our own private environment. If you want to learn more about Cloud Volumes ONTAP, obviously ask me some questions. I'd love to get into a discussion with you. But go ahead and check out cloud.netapp.com. That is NetApp's landing page for all of our public cloud solutions. On there, you will find a TCO calculator for Cloud Volumes ONTAP that will tell you exactly how much money you could potentially save against your existing data sets in the public cloud by applying Cloud Volumes ONTAP to the infrastructure. And then to sweeten the pot, so to speak, you know, in the middle of March or early March, NetApp acquired a company called Talon Storage. And they have a global file caching capability, and we've rebranded that product Global File Cache. We've actually included that with Cloud Volumes ONTAP. So now, along with Cloud Volumes ONTAP, you have an included capability to extend caches, global caches out to edge devices for remote users in remote offices or users in various cloud regions. So even if your use case is, I just need to build out a globally scalable file share that can be cached in remote offices and locations, and then provide collaboration via distributed file locking, that's a perfect use case for this platform now that we've included the file cache capability. But outside of general use file sharing and file caching to remote locations, we also see disaster recovery and business continuity and data backup being really the places where a lot of our clients start with Cloud Volumes ONTAP. But the use cases are really endless. From a production perspective, we just released a new performance report from a single operating environment with Cloud Volumes ONTAP in AWS. We're able to deliver 500,000 I/O at 1 millisecond latency. So it really is for everything that you could possibly need, all the way up to the high-end performance. And we have some customers that are moving their SAP HANA environments into the public cloud on our platforms. So next I want to talk about a couple success stories. This one happening very recently, in fact, at the very beginning of COVID. And I think this is a great example of not only NetApp's portfolio, but also how rapidly people can deploy our solutions in the public cloud. So this particular customer in the UK, they had a Citrix application hosting their end user profiles in their data center on NetApp all flash. When COVID hit, they had the need to rapidly scale out their work from home users out to remote regions within the European region. With Cloud Volumes ONTAP and Citrix, they were able to scale out their application into 3 different Azure regions, and they were able to do that from ground zero within 48 hours. So within 48 hours with our platform, they were able to extend their Citrix services out to their users all over Europe into 3 Azure cloud regions. So a really great success story, and it's not quite public yet, but we are working on that, and please stay tuned and take it and look for that. I already mentioned using Cloud Volumes ONTAP as high availability file services. This client is one in particular that uses that for that specific purpose. And they also have, so they had some needs around local redundancy and also regional failure protection. So we provide that in a couple ways by giving you DR capabilities out to a second region, but also within a singular region, giving you the ability to deliver high availability nodes so that you would be protected from individual infrastructure failures within inside of AWS. So redundancy and regional failure protection for your file services is a great capability. Carm, is there something, a question out there?
Yeah, we have a question from a customer, but moving data between cloud providers is not cost effective as I will be charged for egress traffic.
Absolutely. I mean, egress is something that we always have to be concerned about anytime we move data between clouds. There is, of course, something that we use within ONTAP within our efficiencies, and we use that within our replication stream. So if you were replicating between clouds for more of a persistent use case in terms of data protection, you would get very efficient in terms of your egress charges, because once you had the baseline set, you would only be replicating over any of the block level changes. So in terms of a data protection scheme, it's very efficient. And in terms of egress, once you do that initial data protection seeding, you're only going to be paying egress for the changes. So if you wanted to protect cloud to cloud, we have a way to keep that efficient and keep the egress charges low. In the other scenario where, let's say I'm running Cloud Volumes ONTAP with my application infrastructure in AWS, and for whatever reason, AWS starts, increasing my costs, and they decide that for whatever reason, they can start charging you, 30% more for your storage, and then increasing your bill starts to increase. Or maybe there's a service in either Google Cloud or Azure that you absolutely have to access with your data. Obviously, egress charges are going to be inclusive within that movement, but the important thing is that you can easily migrate your data if your business can justify it, right? And that is probably the most important element for me of Cloud Volumes ONTAP, is it frees your decision-making process, your strategic cloud design. If you decide, there's a tool in GCP for analytics that I absolutely have to access, you don't have to go through complex migration procedures to get your data from AWS into GCP. You can use our platform to migrate your data easily. So whether it's to eliminate a silo that you feel locked into or access a tool that you absolutely need to, we provide you that freedom and flexibility to simply move your data. And yes, egress costs are going to be a part of the strategic process, and hopefully the project can justify it. Otherwise, you'd probably continue to sit inside of the AWS infrastructure. But I want to make sure we paint a, yeah.
Hey, Jeff, it's Bob. Can you talk to any of the benefits around, rehydration and how, we don't have to necessarily, there's some efficiencies and some benefits from, our compression and dedupe. And does that have to rehydrate if you're moving from one cloud provider to another? Are there any efficiencies or benefits there as well? Or can you speak to that?
Yeah, so that's just, what I was speaking to in terms of the replication stream and how we only replicate the block changes once the baseline has been seeded. So the only additional footprint at a second cloud you were replicating to would be any of the production side block level changes. So no, those snapshots on the secondary location, they're not rehydrated. They do not take up the entire space of the snapshot. They would only be any of the marked block changes between the production data set and any of the protection data set. But I want to make sure that we paint a picture a little bit broader than just the migration and data protection capabilities. I did talk about the production data flexibility and high performance that this environment can provide. But again, I want to impress on the multi-protocol and the ability to manage all of your ONTAP environments across all public clouds with a singular tool set. So if you had projects inside of AWS, projects inside of GCP, and projects inside of Azure, Being able to manage all of your data services across all three clouds and your private environment with the same tool and the same data management platform makes those data management processes, whether it's for security or compliance or just simply managing your policies and procedures around data access, monumentally more simple. You no longer have potentially 5 or 10 different locations and tools and processes to manage your data. You're managing that under a singular environment inside your whole hybrid multi-cloud strategy. So great question. I appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and skip over the next customer reference, just in the interest of time. But with NetApp's Cloud Volumes ONTAP, we believe we solve a lot of the challenges that you see here on the screen, plus a lot of the challenges that we discussed around manageability, flexibility, and the ability to avoid being locked into silos. Again, we feel like our platform, whether it's Cloud Volumes ONTAP or any of the many other data services platforms we have within our data fabric, we have the right solution for your cloud-based applications and workloads. Again, I mentioned Cloud Volumes ONTAP is really the tip of the iceberg. We have many other data services that can provide high-performance workload enablement in any cloud. Also analytics and SaaS platform backups. So really the conversation doesn't end there. It really starts here. And it all centers around this concept that we have with the data fabric, which is all about delivering your data when you need it, where you need it. Again, that's a promise that we deliver regardless of your data is sitting at the edge, in your core data center, in your own private cloud, or out in the extended public cloud environment. So next we'll talk a little bit about how to optimize your on-prem infrastructure. Assuming we're going to operate in an environment where, on-premise is still an important factor for our organization, I think it's important that we leverage the cloud to reduce the overall costs and efficiencies, increase the efficiencies of our on-premise infrastructure. With NetApp and our ONTAP all-flash arrays, we can accelerate every application without disruption. So we'll touch on that and what that means. It can also dramatically improve data center economics, and I don't think that's any surprise. If you know NetApp at all, you know that we have extremely high-level efficiencies, and we've done a lot to enhance the economics of our platform, both with on-premise software technologies and public cloud connectivity. And then, of course, future-proofing your enterprise architecture with cloud. Whether it's Cloud Volumes ONTAP or one of our other platforms, Azure NetApp Files, or our Cloud Sync solution, you might not be quite ready to move to the public cloud today. But the important thing is that you invest in a private infrastructure that gives you the pathways to do that when your organization sees fit. So that when you invest in a platform, you aren't restricting yourself to only a private infrastructure, that you're investing with a partner that has the ability to give you pathways and has established experience for over 6 years in delivering solutions in the public cloud. But before we dive into these concepts, I just wanted to give us a little bit of credibility here. 2019, which is the latest Gartner Magic Quadrant for primary storage, NetApp finds it in the best position possible. And I think it's really important for us to distinguish that Gartner put us in this position because ONTAP delivers the deepest integration with the largest cloud storage providers. So it's not just because of our first to market with NVMe over Fibre Channel, our aggressive strategy around storage class memory and embracing Intel Optane, our flexibility in our portfolio, but it's our cloud connectivity that Gartner sees us as in this position and has given us this benefit for the latest Magic Quadrant. And within our platform, and this is a really important distinguishing element, we have a broad portfolio that all works together and can be delivered within the same infrastructure. So what you see here is our high-end solutions and our low-end solutions, including our platforms for non-volatile memory or NVMe protocol. The important thing to note is that all of these platforms, as well as our hybrid arrays, so our non-all-flash platforms, can be consolidated into a single clustered architecture. so that in a single cluster, you can have multiple service levels. You can have service levels for your low-end applications that don't require a lot of performance on the C190, and within the same cluster, you could have an A800 designed to address your SAP HANA needs over NVMe or any of your high-end database or tier 0 application needs. But again, delivering that from a singular infrastructure, singular cluster, and then have the ability to add different entities into that environment over time, non-disruptively. So that's a really important distinction for NetApp that we have, is that we have that flexibility to, again, deliver multiple service application levels within inside a single infrastructure, including tier 2 data protection workloads. And we can also provide, as we've talked about, the flexibility to provide data efficiencies. And with our efficiencies inside of our all-flash architecture, we can reduce the overall cost by as much as 10 times, and the overall footprint around power and cooling as much as 10 times. So there's probably no surprise that NetApp has patented technology around efficiencies, and I think it's pretty much table stakes at this point. But I do want to highlight that we have best-in-class guaranteed efficiencies. So if you have a concern around whether or not our efficiencies are going to meet a particular ratio, we can actually back that with financial guarantees. So I'll point to our inline efficiencies around deduplication and compression, and also our patented technologies around compaction. If that's a concern to you, we'd love to talk about it some more. And I've already mentioned Cloud Volumes ONTAP, and that's an important integral piece in terms of future-proofing your infrastructure. And if you decide to invest in ONTAP in your on-premise data center, we have that connectivity. We have that pathway to get you to the cloud of your choice. And I think that's one important element. Like I mentioned, we have other public cloud solutions, but we also have something that we've integrated at the efficiency level called Fabric Pool. Fabric Pool enables you to tier your active production data that is cold, so your non-active working set, out to public cloud or private cloud object store of your choice. And it does this while keeping the data seamlessly accessible and visible to your user and application architecture. Ultimately, this really reduces the cost of your on-premise flash footprint by reserving that high-cost flash for only your most critical active data. Any cold production data, anything that hasn't been accessed in a customizable time frame, gets pushed off to the object store of your choice. So some great efficiencies, leveraging both on-premise technologies and our public cloud partners. And then finally, from an on-premise perspective, I've touched on the ability to cluster multiple platforms within inside of a singular architecture. But another important element is new next generation SSD technologies come to bear. You'll be able to easily integrate that technology into your cluster non-disruptively without disrupting users or your applications. So you can scale out your infrastructure with no disruption with our non-disruptive upgrade. In addition to that, and as we've already talked about, that cluster is connected to both Cloud Volumes ONTAP and any of the 3 public clouds, plus our ONTAP Select software-defined platform. So again, flexibility to address the data fabric and your data needs, regardless if it's in the data center, in your private cloud, out in the public cloud, or out in the edge where you might find your software-defined architecture. So unless there's any questions, we'll keep on rocking and rolling. We'll move on to our protection and securing your data conversation. So as I mentioned, I worked for Symantec for 10 years. Security is very top of mind for me and has been, especially as I've been pursuing my cloud journey over the last 5 years. And I think that's something that we all need to be concerned about and also be aware that while there is certainly physical security infrastructure and other types of protections that the public cloud provides, overall security of our data is our responsibility. And so it doesn't matter if it's in our private infrastructure or the public cloud, we need to protect that data. And as you can imagine, me working for a security company, I'm no stranger to traditional fear tactics. I typically don't like to bang people over the head with them, but I think we all need to be aware, if you weren't, that there are plenty of what we call ransomware attacks over this past year that have been very disruptive. And I think what's really important and relevant today is that ransomware, in the face of some of the challenges that we're facing right now, especially ransomware in the face of trying to enable a remote workforce, could be absolutely crippling to an organization. So I think that the concerns around ransomware and really malware protection at large should be escalated and should be heightened within our organization, within the current environment. NetApp obviously has solutions for those. We'll talk through that. We'll also talk through some of our partner solutions and what we've done for over 25 years with our partners to help you increase the security of your environment. But really, one of the most challenging things is I don't even have to be a hacker or a ransomware wizard in the current era to be able to, choose a company and attack them and get my Bitcoin out of them. This is just one example of many examples of things that can be purchased on the dark web. So I don't have to be a ransomware expert. I can simply go to the dark web, find a provider that will provide a ransomware code set for me, and then I choose the company I want to target, and I go after them. So no longer is there, an expertise gate to being able to attack with ransomware. It's a criminal enterprise worth billions, and it's not going anywhere soon, anytime soon. So we need to make sure that we invest in partners that can help us detect and prevent breaches within our environment, malware and ransomware within our infrastructure, and then more importantly, remediate and restore our environment back to a healthy place. With NetApp, we have a few solutions specifically to address ransomware and better security within the environment. But the important thing, this first component you see here on the screen, is that this has been a fundamental part of our platform for over 25 years. Our F policy is essentially the integrative component that integrates with security, information, and event management platforms. It provides file and user behavior analytics for the infrastructure, giving you insights into who has accessed what data when, and then, of course, providing reporting out to any of the security information and event management platforms you leverage today. And then over recent years, so about 2 years ago, we released a platform called Cloud Insights. It's actually the evolution of a platform that we've had for the on-prem infrastructure called On-Command Insight. And we took that platform and restructured it to be a SaaS platform in the public cloud. It does a lot of things that really are something we should reserve for a conversation on another day. Provides performance analytics and troubleshooting capabilities and platform analytics across the public and private cloud. But in the context of this conversation, it has a component called Cloud Secure, where it monitors files for access and can alert users and administrators to behavioral changes on shares and behavioral changes of users. So that's one of the mechanisms within our own platform that's an extension of ONTAP that we can provide that helps our users identify risks and remediate them. And then within ONTAP platform itself, we have the flexibility to alert and monitor for anomalous and other types of intuitive indicators. Our NetApp snapshots can identify when a massive rate of change has happened inside of a snapshot, and that's an indicator, as well as a decrease in storage efficiencies. And those things are monitored and alerted when appropriate. And of course, those alerts are highly customizable. So a little bit of a look into how that works within the infrastructure. You will see our F policy here server that sits there on the side. Of course, that collects all of the security and event information, and then can send that data out to any of a variety of our security information and event management partners. Of course, I mentioned Cloud Insights being the NetApp solution for security event management, but we have plenty of partners that we've been partnering with for a very long time that are very mature in this market, and if those are the ones that you leverage for your security event management, we're happy to partner with them and connect them to our infrastructure via custom APIs that we've had built for well over a decade. But what do you do if you have a NetApp infrastructure and you find yourself in a ransomware scenario. So our snapshot copies are redirect on write. They don't consume any space. They don't actually write new data to a snapshot. They're simply based on pointers and don't consume any space. And so they're in some ways immutable. If a snapshot has been created, it is not, that data resides on the initial blocks and will never be overwritten. And so we're able to monitor those snapshots for abnormal growth. If abnormal growth occurs, that's just an indicator that we might have something happening within our infrastructure that's a security risk. And if we have ransomware, we're able to roll back to a specific point in time where we have a snapshot prior to infection. If we're able to do that, and we can do that in a way that makes sense, and that our last snapshot wasn't 3 months ago, but hopefully it was yesterday or maybe even potentially a couple hours prior to the infection, the only data that will be lost is the data that was written post-infection. So a great way to secure your environment. Again, NetApp is very security conscious. It's a big part of why I came to this company when I decided to take my infrastructure journey. And we're here to protect you from, external threats, but also, internal rogue administrators that you might find in your environment. With NetApp SnapLock, we have the capability to create write once, read many, or worm volumes. The retention is handled at the file level, and those snapshots and the file sets created under SnapLock are immutable and cannot be changed or deleted. So if you have a rogue administrator or even someone that just has access to a file share, they are not able to delete those snapshots that have been created, those file sets or snapshots that have been created with our compliance tool until that compliance clock expires, which is, of course, something that you're able to set. Now, security is a very complex concept. We've done a lot of thinking about it for years. We've simplified the process for deployment. So if you want to invest in us, I want to make sure I reiterate that whether it's within NetApp and some of our technical reports, or you lean on CDW's comprehensive set of services and capabilities to deploy NetApp and make that environment across the public and private cloud highly secure, we have definitely the resources to help you get there. So this is just one of many technical reports that we can share with you based on our discussion today. But again, probably the most important element is that we're here not just as providers of technology, but providers as a collaborative set of services with our partners like CDW that we can deliver to you whenever you need it, really with CDW across the globe, wherever you need it. So finally, a conversation around protecting your data, it really wouldn't be complete without giving you a picture about how we protect your data, whether it's with ONTAP organically or via many of our ecosystem partners. So we've talked about, pretty much ad nauseum how you can leverage our SnapMirror replication technology to protect your primary data center infrastructure into the public cloud. But what I also want to highlight is something we've been done for a very, very long time, is using that same replication mechanism to protect data out to a secondary data center. And a really important differentiating factor for us is while you might have all flash sitting inside your data center, we have hybrid arrays that use large density spinning drives, so that when you want to spin up a secondary data center and protect your data center, protect your primary data out to that, you're not required to invest in more flash for a data protection set. You can put a standard hybrid array in those remote locations to protect your data too. And of course, there are many cases where you're going to need to rely on a traditional data protection partner. And we have an extensive set of data protection partners that we have spent years developing custom APIs for. In many cases, particularly the ones that you see on the screen, that API lets them control the ecosystem within NetApp and make sure that the data is actually being backed up and cataloged where it's most efficient for the architecture and where it will remain most productive. So in closing, hopefully we've done a decent job today of helping you understand how NetApp can help you embrace a hybrid multi-cloud world in a secure, efficient manner. There's a lot of opportunities that both digital transformation and the current environment that we're facing open up. I mean, I like to look at challenges and crisis as a time to reinvent myself. I've been using the extra hours at home to learn more, to go and take more AWS and Azure trainings, to expand my sphere of influence on LinkedIn, right? There's opportunities that we have in this environment to do things differently, to do things creatively, and to do things that can really move our organizations forward. So hybrid multi-cloud, whether it's to embrace workplace modernization or to embrace digital transformation so that we can use this opportunity in this time that we're really having to improve our capabilities with the public cloud to figure out what the promise is there. How can it really lower the cost of my new ideas? How can it help my developers innovate faster and create new ways for my end users to be able to interact and collaborate with each other? And of course, when you do invest in on-prem infrastructure solutions, you want to make sure that it is scalable, is extremely cost efficient, and most importantly, is integrated with the public cloud in ways that are meaningful, in ways that help you escape cloud silos and use the cloud for the things that it does best, in terms of using it for object storage that's very cheap, and again, lowering the cost of those new ideas and being able to try new things without expensive costs and doing it in a timely fashion and really accessing that speed, the promise of the public cloud. And finally, I think we need to use this opportunity, in what we're facing in this time as we're adapting our infrastructure to spend money on protection. I'm not a security company. We obviously have, deep integration with security partners, but don't overlook security in this environment. There are plenty of bad actors that are out there right now that are looking to take advantage of us and other organizations as we face these challenges. So please do your due diligence to protect your environment. And as you expand out to the public cloud, spend time understanding how NetApp and CDW can help you secure your infrastructure, and most important, secure your valuable data assets regardless of where they live. So thank you for your time today. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to my peer, Bob Crickmore, to introduce himself and talk a little bit about what we're doing at the financial level to help our clients face some of these challenges.
Hey, Jeff, before we pass that off, there's a couple of questions that were in the chat.
Yeah.
So the first one is, are you still limited to 368 terabytes of capacity for both BYOL and pay-as-you-go license types for data on CVO and tier data to S3 or blob?
Yes, we still are currently limited by that capacity. My recommendation is that if you have a workload that scales beyond that, is that you work with us to look at Cloud Volume Services or Azure NetApp Files, which really have no limit to their potential scale.
The other question is, can you leverage vScan feature on this? I think that might have been during the ransomware section.
Yeah, could you repeat I didn't get was it vSAN?
vScan. Or maybe they meant vSAN, I'm not sure.
Okay.
They wrote vScan.
Got it. So I'm not familiar with the term vScan, so we might need to get some clarity on that one, but we'd be happy to follow up on that and get some further context. I will tell you that we do have solutions for vSAN, if that was where the question was from. We actually, our ONTAP Select platform, our software-defined ONTAP, does work with inside of vSAN environments. And in a lot of cases, I do have clients that are using the F-Policy engine with inside of ONTAP Select to provide better security compliance for their vSAN environments.
Okay. Another one is, if our CVO instance hosted in Azure is experiencing high CPU usage, DS5 v2, how can we upgrade the VM, and will this cause an issue?
Great question. So something we didn't talk about today is honestly a great follow-up would be a demo of our Cloud Manager tool. I think if I logged into Cloud Manager, it would be 3 or 4 clicks for me to upgrade the compute instance on my Cloud Volumes ONTAP. So there is a very easy platform to be able to upgrade those instances. If you're in a single node instance, you are going to have a little bit of downtime. It's really a matter of seconds while you upgrade that instance. And if you're in a high availability node scenario, you can make those compute node upgrades without any disruption to users. But that is a great follow-up. We would love to have the opportunity to provide you demos of Cloud Volumes ONTAP, provide you a Cloud Manager demo, and show you the capabilities, and more importantly, like how simple it is to use. If you haven't looked at NetApp for a while, and you knew NetApp from the past, you will be pleasantly surprised at how easy all of our interfaces are to use. Even our on-prem system manager interface has an entirely new HTML5 interface and look. And even if you knew nothing about ONTAP, day zero administrator trying to figure out ONTAP, you would be able to go into that infrastructure, deploy volumes, manage them, replicate them, really without any knowledge. A big underpinning of what we've done, and honestly what we've learned from our experience in the public cloud, is injecting simplicity in everything we do. That includes upgrading VMs within inside of your public cloud. Awesome. Any other questions?
No, that's it.
Awesome. Great questions. I appreciate the interactive dialogue.
So Jeff, if you want to just take it to the next slide, I can go over that quickly, and then we can wrap up. So welcome, everyone. So yeah, for those that don't know me, my name is Bob Crickmore, and ultimately I'm the National Partner Manager that's responsible for the relationship between CDW and NetApp. CDW is one of our top partners, if not the top partner in Canada. So obviously strong relationships with them, and they've got all kinds of different services and skills that we can work with their team and wrap them around an offering and a solution that we can provide to you. So we really encourage conversations after this one. The point of today's session was really to whet your appetite and hopefully spur some follow-up conversations and some demos. So we welcome that. Please let us know if you're interested, and we'd be happy to follow up with a dedicated webinar for you and your teams and demos and everything else. So from a financing perspective, we're trying to do our part in these challenging times, and we've got some different options, and the one that's on the slide is really around something that NetApp's driving at our level, and it's really buy now, pay later. So if you've seen some interesting options today, but you're in a situation because of maybe there's a spending freeze or there's other limitations to your organization, then don't let that stop you. Come talk to us, and there might be a way that we can work with you to provide a solution that would require you to pay 6 months down the road. You can actually carry that you can delay that payment further. Obviously, it just wouldn't be covered by NetApp after the 6-month period. So there's all kinds of interesting things that we can do from our level. I know CDW's got their own financing options, and some of their distribution partners do as well. So if financing is a concern, please follow up with us, and we can go over a number of different options for you to help, hopefully to help allow you to move forward sooner rather than later. So with that said, if you want to go to the next slide, Jeff. I know we are almost out of time. Yeah, so Jeff, did you want to wrap up?
Yeah, we'll wrap up here real quick. I mentioned earlier I spent 10 years at Symantec and now 5 years at NetApp. Majority of my career was spent in Chicago working out of the CDW headquarters. About a year ago, I moved my family into the Pacific Northwest, and since then have now been aligned with CDW Canada. So I have a really long tenure of working with CDW, and it was really exciting to me that pretty much right after I moved out to take on this role, CDW acquired Scalar, because I was part of the Burby acquisitions in the States that transformed CDW in the U.S. to a high-performing, highly capable services organization. So I can't underpin how important this is, because everything we've talked about today, we can't really do it alone. We obviously know our solutions. We know how to deliver them. We've got services wrapped around them, but we can't deliver a lot of the things that we talked about today without the expertise of CDW. You're going to need public cloud expertise. You're going to need security expertise. You're going to need those things to build a comprehensive hybrid multi-cloud solution. So that's why I think it's great that you've chosen to rely on a partner like CDW to help you deliver on your digital transformation and workforce modernization initiatives, because their broad ecosystem and their extensive set of services can really deliver on all the things that are important to you. So again, I thank you everyone for your time today. Would love to follow up and talk more about any of the things we've talked about. I do want to remind you that Friday you will be seeing a survey come out along with the link to the recording. And attendees that complete the survey will be entered in to win one of 5 one-year subscriptions to Disney+. So as you can tell, and if you're like me, you love some Star Wars, so get on that Disney+, and we'd love to hear from you on what you thought of the session today. So again, thank you for your time, and I hope to hear from you soon. Goodbye.